fantasy short stories. Old Oak Greg by Vladimir Hlocky. As surely as yesterday do I remember the narrative which I am about to pen, although it happened many years ago. I intend to pithily occupy your imagination with my childhood, immersing it much as mine was immersed, in hopes that you will not remain impartial the same way my parents and 3 siblings have, for whom I was at the time a clamorous belle, a disobedient kid, and nothing more. Being the eldest of 4, a certain expectation of composure and prudence poised over my head like a never-dissipating broom. Yet, I admit, I cared little for it. So, when the breakfast grew more raucous than my sensitive nature could bear, I was the first to mutely stand up from the table and walk away, despite my parents' remarks to eat the food instead of closing my room's door shut. By the time they had finished arraigning me, I was out through the window, out the backyard. Halfway across the meadow, I smelled the freedom, for I was leaving the house's shadow, darting through dewy grass, which the sun did not have a chance yet to liberate. "Greg! Greg!" I would shout from afar, waving. I had a friend who waited for me each morning on the outskirts of a huge, broadleaf forest, though the opportunity to sight him was woefully scarce for a regular human. He vanished into the tree line as soon as I had skipped across the creek, careful not to overextend his time in plain sight of the world. Only I was allowed to spend time with the forest, and I mean that in the full significance of the word. My friend was an overgrown, overaged oak who accompanied my juvenile soul on all the twisty and enigmatic paths through the woods and shaped me into who I am today. My curiosity always propelled me to inquire about his past. Reflecting upon it now, I see how irrelevant his history was to my own life. This Greg knew well. His deep, brown eyes would survey me as if I had committed a crime against the hulking archive of knowledge behind them, filled up with volumes and volumes of memory. Did I believe him older than time itself? Most certainly. But he never cared to justify his age, never to explain it. Perhaps, in retrospect, he nudged at it once, when he disclosed to me the story of the butterfly and how each of us must undergo its metamorphosis, as he had. And though it might take 1,000 years, or 100, the time would be right for us when it came. Greg's words seldom surpassed the presence of a talking tree, which bestowed serenity upon my inner thoughts. His voice was remarkably penetrating. Still, for ever since I had come to know Greg, the pine branches outside my window that creaked and bent in the passing wind reminded me of an elder tree's wisdom. Greg himself never ventured beyond the edge of the forest. And on this I insist most fervently, even under the darkest veil of night, he resided unseen beyond the creek, timely for our meetings, yet remote otherwise, as though something more than daylight kept him aloof from the rest of the world. I myself never had trouble reaching out to him. We had our spot in a glorious clearing around a bonfire whose fire scar has long been healed by the tissue of the forest. Last I looked, insects and centipedes had made it their own. Back in time, we endlessly talked around the flame. Greg spoke of the tree world, while I spoke of the human world. It was a mutual exchange of information. Listening to Greg was strangely possessive, like his words took root inside me. Most distinctly, unless my memory is failing me, I recall the way he would pronounce his name, a sleepy, stretched Grog. which sounded like the drowsy murmur of an ancient trunk, athirst to be left in solitude. Or instead, and far less often, he grumbled it, a short grugh. And I would picture an irate bear who has overslept 2 summers and was in a rather dire need to gulp. I never laughed out loud at Greg's voice, because the underlying wisdom instilled fright in me. Nor did I ever doubt my sanity in conversing with what many would dismiss as mere bark and branches. If anything, it was the height of the achievement, a thing as profound as that I had befriended a tree which brought tears to my pillow. Must I publicly confess the ear-splitting breakfasts where all the talk revolved around capital, which a child could not understand, had something to do with it? But as I look back, I see my soul was rooting for me all along, helping me transmogrify into a walking dreamer. I was meant to encounter Greg, much like he was meant to encounter me. Such was the trail laid before my butterfly. My family never believed this. To them, the wings that took me to paradise were but foolishness dressed up fancy as the imagination. But they did not know Greg. He always spoke with delicate prudence about all things, lulling one to a dangerous sleep in which visions bloomed, dreams never before dreamed, cryptic wake things which seemed to have a free will of their own. But each pause in his speech as if emphasized the importance of staying rooted and brought one back to the clearing. Such was how Greg spoke. Greg cared about his forest, yes, but life seemed to simply flow around him. This calm disregard felt shared among all trees surrounding the clearing, who, too, seemed to be hearkening when he spoke. Their crowns were ever so slightly inclined above us, jiggling. Beneath us lay an underground root system, which ensured swift and reliable communication between them. Greg said that nature whispered, broadcasting to itself, the way a radio does. He said they communicated with each other, the dried leaf, the wood fern, the uprooted dandelion, the guarding oak, the fallen nut, the grass, the stream. The forest was a transmitter passing not only nutrients, but also secrets and warnings of uninvited guests. It angered me that this magnificent interaction was happening without me. I could not help but savor bitterness, for I was an onlooker, uninvited to the full meal, left only to imagine the conversations beneath the soil. What would I give today to sit beside Greg in silence? I recall ruminating aloud before him, mostly out of frustration or fear, I cannot say. You know, I thought, if nature senses danger, then here we sit, ripened as plums beside the fire I have kindled. Are we not, so to speak, ready for jam? Tell me, Greg, why is it that you trust me and not my family? I will not forget what he said, the way his voice trembled with laughter and his deep, solemn eyes looked at me. I am obliged to pen his response exactly as it came to me. I intend to merely present it to you without embellishment, not draw any conclusions. Those I leave to you.
It is true. When nature senses a threat, it responds in kind. Yet, I assure you, my friend, you are not among the accused. Reach forth and touch my branch. Now listen closely. You are enfolded within a complex ecosystem. Do you hear it? Living, breathing. The wind scents the peril first. He rushes to inform the woodpeckers, who keenly await the signal. Do you hear it? The rhythmic tapping within my bark. Do you understand its deep message? We, the trees, then transport it underground. In our roots it travels to hills and valleys, until every blade of grass and dandelion has tasted the knowledge and knows what is at stake. The ecosystem stands united, in one voice, safeguarded by us all.
Oh, how I loved Greg. God, everything he said was music to my ears. I could sit there for eternity, letting his wisdom guide me in the ways of peace everlasting. I was a child basking in the raw reality of nature, which nurtured me and cradled me as though I were its own. Though I am writing what feels like a distant dream, I remember I was an inseparable part of that dream at one point. Over time, my friend helped me master his own ability to detect nature's broadcast waves. I surrendered to the present moment, who further tickled the gift within me. First, I heard nature's whispering sporadically. Then, as soon as I recognized a pattern, an innate system developed in me. Finally, I had been transformed into a radio station, and I could respond back to nature with thoughts of my own. Greg said I was a quick learner, but I think he was a great teacher. The old oak's final gift to me was introducing me to silence and how truths previously hidden would arise in its company. The following, I vow, he said to me:
Rabbits poke out from their burrows when the land is quiet.
I must say, the atmosphere thickened over time. Like the rabbit saying, silence was a gift to me. I could bloom in it. Something transcendental was coming. I felt it on heaven's heels, and it sought to strike the core of my existence. But before I tell you how our meetings drastically reformed, I must reiterate the essential grace in a gift. It is what makes it unconditional, albeit renders anyone's work unworthy. Thus, the gift remains a gift still. It began with a glimpse of my old friend's eyes looking at mine, churning the back of my mind as we conversed. The stare was charming, possessive, I would say, even intimate. I was disarmed, looking into the striking mirror of silence. It sprawled. Soon, we did not talk about anything at all. We would behold one another's soul in raw, silent conduct. At that clearing, nature's essence was laying roots on us. The mesmerizing quiet lasted 10 minutes, then stretched into hours on our second attempt. On our third and onward, we sat in the clearing without uttering a single word the entire day, come rain or shine. An unshakable bond blossomed between us. One evening, Greg proclaimed the following:
I see a pocket universe in your eyes.
Otherwise, we never faltered in this game of raptness. We could sit there for eternity and be fascinated. Certain aspects of our friendship stayed in the old fashion. We still adjoined in the morning, albeit after I had eaten my breakfast quite contentedly at the table, even saying thank you to my family afterward, who, which I can only ascribe to utter shock, had become very reserved people in my presence. Rather substantial change happened to me. I myself was renewed into a ballerina who no longer whistled, waved from afar, but whose soul hovered above the dewy earth while Greg waited on the outskirts. Our voices became myths. I pondered whether we had truly exchanged words at all. How did Greg's voice sound? Had we always existed in telepathy, only imagining our voices while trading looks? Eternally were these conspiracies on my mind, even as the old oak's eyes began to dim. I could not shake the memory there had once flickered a spark within them, one that had nearly faded away. I like to believe that his presence was entering deeper and deeper trance states, from which a traveler was not meant to return. Slowly, his oak leaves were withering. Nevertheless, we continued playing the endless game of mutual admiration. Every moment was like a fresh encounter with existence. The harmony between us had overcome all fears and borders. It was enlightened mental chess, where our thoughts danced like pieces on the board, visible to the other. Only we were both winners, building a stairway to heaven together, helping one another out. We exchanged no words throughout the fall. Then winter came. The dew froze, and I walked on ice that shattered upon my touch. Greg no longer appeared on the outskirts as he had, but I grew accustomed to his absence. Every morning I would find him in the clearing beside our once warm bonfire, buried beneath drifts of snow. The bone-chilling nights had purloined his quick-witted sense. It was a terrible sight. We hardly made eye contact anymore. Instead, I leaned against his trunk every day, feeling the thump of his heart beneath my cheek. Greg had grown too weak and quiet, the kind of quietness I did not fancy, for one could not communicate with it. The life force was too shallow. I wept. Yet I heard what I heard. A few days before Christmas, he whispered that he had been a teacher when I needed him most. Everything was going to be fine, he said, because all gifts had been given and I had been an excellent student. We were finally one imagination. As I pen these last lines, I ought to record exactly what Greg told me that last day.
I have shown you a dream. Protect the seedling, for tomorrow lives in it. You carry the torch to our forest. Now you are one of us.
Years have passed since that moment. Years. It is a shame that I am relieved of worldly duties so rarely. One would think taking care of family wealth would be a part-time business, even for one so incongruous by nature to the tasks at hand. Yet I still visit the gorgeous clearing, not as often as I would like to. Although Greg's eyes have plunged into the bark, and there seems to be no heartbeat in his darkened, moss-overgrown torso anymore, I greet him with the same awe as when I was a kid. Whenever I find myself at home, whether for personal matters or business affairs, The outlining crowns of the broadleaf forests rustle in the wind. It all reminds me of him. I like to think he senses my presence, too. I carry inside myself an indelible memory of a majestic oak I once knew. He spoke to me, and I listened. Some connections endure the test of time. To say a tree's aliveness depends on its ability to speak vastly limits one's understanding of nature. Whenever I am there in the clearing, staring at his overgrown torso and ruminating on memories, I know Greg's life is more akin to the forest's soul. His appearance is just the physical symbol of that soul. But, like a soul in the body, his life is not in one place. It permeates through the entire ecosystem. Thus, my final testimony to you is the following. Go out. Go find your own Greg. To whomever this message may reach, I dare you to go make friends with trees. They are open to it. More than willing, actually. This is what Greg has taught me. When you find one that you like, just sit down and use your imagination. Develop an intimate bond with it. Let it guard you. Let it speak. Maybe it will teach you about the wood fern and the uprooted dandelion. Vladimir Hlocky writes experimental short stories ranging from fantasy and sci-fi to genres that are hardly definable. Old Oak Greg is one of the less experimental ones, but that does not mean it should be boring. He usually tries to convey a sense of dreaminess, childlike wonder, and symbolism in his stories. Sometimes he employs narrative concepts that have never been used before, in which he likes to break the barrier between the reader and the stories. Sometimes they should twist your mind, or inspire you, or provoke you, but he wants you at all times to feel like the center of the universe. They should be a place where people can escape to and feel like everything is possible, even if for a while. Regarding his reader base, it'd be nice to have one day. But he's far more concerned with writing stories that he feels content with, reader base or not. He has Journeys Beyond Earth available on Amazon in case somebody really wanted to read them. Link in the description. He lives in a town near Prague, Czech Republic. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. It's been quite a while since I've had something this bizarre that I've read. I think I'd have to go back probably about 5 years. I used to work with an author named Abhishek Sengupta, and he wrote these beautiful, dreamy stories. I've got several on the channel, so if you enjoyed the story, check out those too. And hopefully we'll get Vladimir back on the channel as well, because I really like this kind of fiction. In a lot of this stuff, the story almost doesn't matter. It's how it makes you feel as you're reading it. And that's one of the reasons that I chose the accent I did, which is close to my actual accent. I do have a little bit of a southern twang to my real voice, but I've spent the last, decade trying to get rid of it. It's kind of hard to actually find my real voice now. I've been doing voices so long, but I've always found some of the more southern accents to be very relaxing, and this story felt like it would benefit from that kind of voice. I hope you guys agree and that I didn't just butcher it. But if you did like this, be sure to let me know if you're listening on YouTube. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just be sure to subscribe for more brand new short stories. I'm Chris Herron, and that's it for today's Tall Tale TV.